Good morning. I'm Electrical Inspector, Building and Energy. We used to be Energy Safety until we amalgamated with DMIRS. My presentation is basically aimed at probably the smaller farmer. However, the bigger industries can probably bring some of this back to their workforce. So, electrical safety on a farm should be just part of your overall safety system. Oh, how do I go back?
Off the red.
That one?
It should go back. Did it? Yes.
Brilliant, thanks. So, you already have ways of doing various parts of your job safely. Dave spoke about common sense. A lot of it is common sense. Simple things on a farm: make sure your tractor's not moving before you try and get off it. Don't have the engine running while you're trying to change the cutters on your header. Don't poke the dead looking snake lying in the sun. Basic common sense stuff, right? So don't use the old extension cord with the nicks and cuts in the insulation. Even if you have wrapped it with insulation tape. Insulation tape doesn't fix extension cords. Where electrical equipment is concerned, a bit of black around the edges, unlike your Saturday barbecue, is not a good thing. And basically, if you have to ask yourself, should I do this when dealing with electricity? Don't. Something's trying to tell you not to go down that road. Like any equipment, electrical equipment needs maintenance. Just because it works doesn't mean it's safe to use. Everyone has the old reliable bit of gear in the back of the shed, the portable generator that lives on the back of the ute. Rain, hail or shine. The extension cords coiled up next to the generator. They bake in the sun. They freeze in winter. They grow brittle. Insulation can become brittle. It'll split. Not all insulation is UV stabilised. Use extension cords with heavy duty insulation. Don't buy the ones at the generic Kmart, Officeworks. Bunnings isn't as bad as you think for electrical equipment, by the way. Don't use the just normal general use ones. Okay, go for the heavy use ones, heavy duty. They'll last longer, but look after them. And don't join your extension leads together to get a longer one. Go and buy a longer one. If the longest one you buy isn't long enough, you need to get your power supply closer to where you're working or work closer to your power supply. Portable generators. Now, this one comes up still quite often. I'll go out to a property and there's a farmer out there, or a shearer, or a property owner, and his complaint with me is that the electricians come out and got a portable generator, hooked it up to his shearing shed through an inlet socket, but he's modified the generator so that he can't use it elsewhere. There are modifications required. There's a thing called an MEN link. It's electrical connection inside a generator. If you hook it to an installation, it's got to be removed. But it also means you can't take that generator somewhere else and use it as a portable generator anymore. Okay, so this still comes up. Farmer wants his generator, his portable generator. He wants to power his shearing shed or power his produce shed, and then he wants to take it, put it on the back of the ute and go and use it to use power tools elsewhere. It's come to the stage where generators are not multi-purpose like that. If you want to hook it to an installation, something permanent, via some sort of connection means, you can't use it as a portable generator anymore. So just be aware of that one. More and more we're going away from portable generators. We're using inverters and batteries. They're easy to install, they're getting a lot cheaper, they're quiet, and they require very little maintenance. but they also have hidden dangers. Battery systems are often around 48 to 96 volts. So they don't fit in with licensing regulations, that part of it. You don't need a license to work on battery systems like that. You would still be required to be competent if it's a place of work. WorkSafe can deal with that part. But a system like this, a small system, you can have about 20,000 amps worth of fault current. If something goes wrong with the batteries in a small system just like this, it's the equivalent of dropping a spanner across 200 car batteries all at once. A lot of the farmers out there would have had experience changing the battery in a ute or a particular gear, getting your spanner across the terminal and part of the body at the same time. You get quite a good spark out of it. This is at least 200 car batteries. Okay, burns, shock. Okay, so because of the fault levels involved, they must be installed in a suitable location. What we've got here is not suitable. Okay, it was a temporary measure. I went out to do an inspection on this new one. This is what they had at the time because the shed hadn't been built yet. What the electrical contractor should have done is said, I can't turn it on until you've got the shed built. All right. Mechanical protection is very important. Much of the mobile machinery used on farms doesn't have rear parking sensors. They haven't got real good turning circles. If you bang a bit of machinery into just a battery setup like this, you'll probably lose the machinery in the shed. Okay. So contact with a bit of equipment, heavy equipment, into a battery setup can be catastrophic. So make sure you either use bollards or separate rooms, etc. for your batteries. Private power poles. Now this one's come up more recently. There was a fair bit to do in the Parkerville fire regarding who was responsible for the private power pole. So the network operator was found to be responsible. However, there's now some changes. As a farmer, if your private power pole falls over, you may be responsible for the damage to the next farm and the one after that and the one after that. The network operator is only responsible for the first power pole up to the first point of connection. So your first power pole on your property, where the Western Power or the Horizon Power comes in, is your responsibility. So if you're driving around on your farm, harvesting, carrying out other works, and if you bump a power pole, mind you, bump is relative. If you've got 25, 30 tonne worth of harvester, a bit different to bumping it with a ute. Make sure you check the power pole, but get the power turned off first. You don't want to go up to your power pole and start going, oh yeah, it looks pretty solid, and then find it's not. Okay. Grain augers are great conductors of electricity. They're also great for pulling down power poles or power lines. If you're in a bit of gear, if you're in a harvester or on a ute, towing a auger, whatever, if you make contact with a power pole and you're still in contact with it, or the vehicle is still in contact with it, you need to stay in the vehicle and call for help. Don't get out of your vehicle. If you can't call for help, you do have to get out of your vehicle, you need to jump from the vehicle and land with both feet on the ground at the same time, and you need to bunny hop away from the vehicle, because there's power flowing through the ground from the power lines you've contacted, and if you take a step, the difference in voltage from where this foot is and where this fault is goes through your body. Okay, so be very wary. Get help. Sitting in your harvester, sitting in your vehicle is good. Wait for help to turn up. Make sure they stay away. Get someone to get the power disconnected. if this happens and you then get out of your vehicle, you get away, also make sure you leave the vehicle, rope it off 24 hours, don't put it back in the shed. Pyrolysis happens in tyres. It's where you get a small fire in the tyre, quite often with this sort of thing, and it sits there and it just slowly burns, smoulders, builds up pressure, and eventually you'll get an explosion. Okay. Switchboards. This is an actual photo of a switchboard on an operating farm. Anybody recognise it? Okay. Switchboards actually require a bit of maintenance, and keeping them clean can not only ensure they function correctly, but it also keeps them safe. Okay. It's pretty clear from this photograph that the safety switches have never been tested in this switchboard. Okay. They've got an internal mechanism. It's mechanical. It's like anything mechanical. If you don't open a gate, when you want to open it, it's not going to open properly. It's going to be stiff. It's going to, bind up. Safety switches and circuit breakers are exactly the same. You need to operate them every now and then. Our office recommends every 3 months test all your safety switches. And if you're going to be testing the safety switches, turn your circuit breakers off, then turn it back on again. They're a mechanical device. They're electromechanical. They do need to be operated. Gaps in switchboards. This is one I hear reported to me quite a bit. A gap of 12 millimetres is considered to be access to live parts. Okay. Under the work health and safety, if someone puts their finger in a switchboard, it's where common sense doesn't come into it. That's not an excuse. They should have known better. 12 millimetres, put their finger in, get an electric shock. I'm sure the work health and safety laws aren't going to be very complimentary to your business. 12 millimetres, you might think, oh, that's not too bad, but also consider on farms, you also have kids, you have families. Okay. Kids will poke anything into a gap in anything. All right. Older switchboards with ceramic fuses. Okay. Yes, you can take the fuse cartridge out, you can change the fuse wire, it's not electrical work, not a problem. But when you take that fuse out, you've got a bigger gap than 12 millimetres. You've got quite a big gap. Those contacts inside, they're live. And there's usually no protection, safety protection prior to that. It's usually after that you've got the RCD protection. Right. And lastly for switchboards, access. If you can't get to your switchboard easily, when you're calm, when it's daytime, when it's light, without moving equipment, how are you going to get to your switchboard in an emergency when it's dark, you're panicking, there's no light, and you can't find the keys to the ute to get it out of the way? Okay, I go to a lot of properties where I go, all right, where's your switchboard? They go, oh, it's in here. Oh, hang on, I'll move all this gear. Okay. You need to be able to get to your switchboard in case of an emergency. So like I said earlier, primarily this is aimed at the small to medium farms, the sole traders, the guys that have got their family farm on their property. But the bigger industries, pare this back a bit, because you can probably break your whole industry down into lots of small areas. The same sort of stuff goes on. Have a look at the gear your workers are using. Like Dave said, culture, don't use the old stuff. Buy the new stuff, it will save you money in the long run. Okay, Andrew, I didn't start the timer. I've got no idea what the time is.
You're doing very well, but you actually have got a couple of questions, Pat, which is terrific. So I'm going to throw some at you, and you are bang on time, which is terrific. Some questions around power poles mainly, and I'm going to sort of bunch them up a little bit. First one, what are the inspection criteria around private power poles? A regime or
a regime? Okay, it is up to the property owner to ensure their power poles are suitable and they're maintained. Now, electrical contractors will attend a property and do an inspection of your power poles. There is no specific criteria other than when power poles are replaced, there are guidelines. There are certain different types of power poles that can be replaced. But as far as an inspection regime, or for a farmer or a property owner to know, is my power pole serviceable, you need to get somebody who's got experience in either looking at timber or looking at steel. Like with any other part of the industry, if you're not an expert in something, you need to get somebody who is.
Terrific, thank you. A couple, I'm going to actually ask these together. Can you clarify, the power poles, are we responsible for the poles after the meter box or the poles after the first one located on our property? And what if the poles extend across the property to the neighbour?
Okay. The first point of connection, so when the for example, we use Western Power, where their power line goes down the street or whatever, the first pole that they connect to is your responsibility. Okay, so the first one that has got any of your infrastructure or connection to is your responsibility. The other part was...
if the poles extend across your property to the neighbours.
Okay, so if they're network poles, okay, so if the Western Power goes across your property to the neighbour's property, Western Power are responsible for anything that's got their network all the way across on it. Okay, so only if you connect to that pole, you're responsible to it, basically.
That's terrific, thank you. A quick question with regards to large generators. We run a number of large generators, 150 to 300 kVA, running centre pivot irrigators that are not undercover. Should they be?
You'd have to look at the manufacturer's instructions for that. They'll tell you whether or not they're rated to be out in the weather or not.
Thank you. And just another quick one. Is there an electrical safety do's and don'ts like the one you shared about hitting the electrical pole? Is there any information available that you're aware of that sort of hints and tips?
There is various guidelines and notices on our website. You go to just Google building and energy. That'll get you there to start with. Terrific. And there are a lot of fact sheets on there.
And one last one, the difference between privately owned power poles and network owned, who's responsible for reporting on non-standard height of actual power lines?
Okay, if you find any power lines that aren't standard, so you're not maintaining your clearance off the ground from your conductors or of your power poles, report them to the network operator. So Western Power, Horizon Power, report it to them. If they're on your own private property, then they are your responsibility if they're not to height, if they're your power poles.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Pat.
Thank you.